Warren Buffett hoards money like Ned Stark hoarded food for winter. Elon Musk destroys entire industries the same way that Daenerys burns King's Landing. And Mark Zuckerberg buys out competitors like Euron Greyjoy raided enemy ships. The biggest business successes follow strategic patterns that were written centuries before Silicon Valley existed. Some are making the same fatal mistake that destroyed House Bolton. Others are building the exact money advantages that made House Lannister untouchable. So I ask myself why some companies seem to have an unfair advantage, why others with better products still fail, and why the most successful businesses in history share one crucial characteristic that has nothing to do with their industry. And I discovered that Game of Thrones hides all the answers I was looking for. Ready or not, winter is coming. While everyone else celebrated during good times, Winterfell was preparing for disaster. 8,000 years of harsh winters taught the Starks one lesson: abundance always ends, and only the prepared survive what comes next. Warren Buffett's entire business philosophy comes straight from this playbook. While other investors chase quick gains, he sits on massive piles of cash, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, banks were collapsing and begging for help. Buffett stepped in like a medieval lord with full granaries during famine. Goldman Sachs needed $5 billion when nobody else would help. Buffett provided it, but at terms that made him billions later. Bank of America needed similar rescue, another $5 billion from his reserves. This perfectly mirrors how Ned Stark managed Winterfell's resources. Every harvest, food went to storage before anyone celebrated. Every alliance focused on long-term survival over short-term gains. Jon Snow's transformation of the Night's Watch reveals another layer of this strategy. He saw the real threat: White Walkers, not wildlings, and turned enemies into allies before the crisis hit. Modern Stark-style companies excel at this. They convert competitive threats into strategic advantages during good times. Johnson & Johnson demonstrated pure Stark crisis management during the 1982 Tylenol crisis. 7 people died from tampered capsules, a disaster that could have destroyed the brand forever. Their responses were textbook Stark thinking: immediate personal accountability, complete transparency, and long-term reputation over short-term damage control. They recalled every Tylenol product nationwide within 48 hours. The CEO appeared personally in advertisements explaining their actions. They developed tamper-proof packaging from scratch. The cost exceeded $100 million, but their market share recovered completely within 8 months. This reveals the core Stark principle: your reputation is your most valuable asset during crisis. While others panic and make desperate moves, Stark companies use their preparation to emerge stronger. Sansa's evolution shows the mature version of this strategy. After surviving the Boltons and learning from Littlefinger's manipulation, she rebuilt Winterfell more powerful than before. Her famous line, "I learned a great deal from Cersei," shows how smart companies absorb competitive intelligence without compromising their core values. The Stark approach seems boring during dull markets, but it creates an unfair advantage when winter arrives, and winter always arrives. Daenerys conquered the 7 kingdoms, but on another level. She made traditional warfare completely obsolete. 3 dragons against countless armies changed the rules of the power forever. Targaryen companies don't improve existing markets. They burn them down and create entirely new ones. Tesla follows this playbook perfectly. When Elon Musk announced his electric car company, every automotive expert predicted failure. Electric vehicles had bombed commercially for over a century, but Tesla never aimed to just make better cars. They redefined what transportation could be. No dealerships buy direct from the company. Cars that update their software like smartphones. Charging networks that create ecosystem lock-in. Every assumption about how the car industry worked was challenged. The impact cascaded through the entire industry. Tesla's success forced every major automaker into expensive pivots. General Motors announced $35 billion in electrical vehicle investments. Ford committed $50 billion. Volkswagen allocated $100 billion globally. Steve Jobs channeled identical Targaryen energy with the iPhone. The mobile industry was fragmented between hardware manufacturers, software companies, and wireless carriers. BlackBerry dominated business users. Nokia controlled global markets, and Palm owned the stylus interface. While other companies struggled to improve their phones, Jobs made entire categories disappear. No physical keyboard, no stylus, pure touch interface with unprecedented software integration. The announcement on January 9th, 2007 represents a perfect Targaryen-style disruption. On this day, we witnessed a total category redefinition. BlackBerry never recovered. Nokia sold their mobile division to Microsoft for scraps, and Palm disappeared entirely. The iPhone generated over $1 trillion in revenue while destroying established players who had seemed untouchable. Daenerys' journey from exiled princess to Dragon Queen mirrors this perfectly. Her walking into fire moment with the dragon eggs represents the ultimate test of revolutionary technology. Risk everything to prove the impossible works. But Targaryen innovation without ethics leads to destruction. Aerys, the Mad King wildfire obsession, parallels companies like Theranos. Elizabeth Holmes promised revolutionary blood testing technology that could run hundreds of tests from a single drop of blood. The technology never worked, leading to criminal fraud, convictions, and complete value destruction. The Targaryen approach requires balancing revolutionary vision with vigorous execution. The most successful companies following this pattern invest heavily in research, accept high failure rates, and target exponential returns from breakthrough successes. When it works, it creates empires. When it fails, destroys everything. The Iron Islands had a brutally efficient philosophy. Why grow your own crops when you can take what others have already cultivated? Modern Greyjoy companies build empires through systematic acquisition rather than organic development. Facebook executes this strategy with surgical precision. When Mark Zuckerberg spotted Instagram hitting 100 million users in just 2 years, he identified it as both a threat and an opportunity. Facebook was losing younger users to more visual platforms. Instead of trying to compete directly, he eliminated the threat by buying it for $1 billion. That $1 billion acquisition now generates an estimated 50+ billion annually for Facebook. WhatsApp cost $19 billion, but gave Facebook dominance and global messaging. Oculus cost $2 billion and positioned Facebook for virtual reality futures. Each purchase eliminated a competitive threat while adding strategic capabilities. Euron Greyjoy's return during the King's Moat demonstrates perfect acquisition timing. He arrived during a succession crisis with superior capabilities and aggressive expansion plans. His timing was flawless. The Iron Islands needed decisive leadership, and he provided both vision and execution capability. Constellation Software represents the ultimate we do not sow execution. Since 1995, they've completed over 1,000 acquisitions of smaller software companies, following exclusively on businesses that other companies absolutely need to operate. Their systematic approach identifies companies with dominance niche positions, customers who can easily switch, and predictable revenue streams. The result speaks for themselves. 25% annual growth for 28 years and stock price appreciation exceeding 11,000%. But Greyjoy's strategies demand cultural sophistication. Theon's identity crisis after living with the Starks illustrates integration disasters. When Yahoo acquired Tumblr for $1.1 billion, they destroyed its creative culture and unique community dynamics through incompatible management approaches. Successful Greyjoy companies like Berkshire Hathaway preserve acquired cultures while providing capital and strategic support. Warren Buffett's 80+ acquisitions over 60 years built a $700 billion empire through operational autonomy rather than integration pressure. The distinction? Acquire capabilities and talent, not just financial assets. Tywin Lannister proved that gold could reshape kingdoms more effectively than armies. He funded rebellions, maintained government stability, and built lasting alliances through sophisticated financial strategy rather than military conquests. This approach reaches its peak in companies like BlackRock, which manages over $10 trillion in assets, more money than most countries generate in a year. Larry Fink built this empire through systematic financial innovation and institutional relationships spanning governments and corporations worldwide. Their risk management platform processes $21 trillion in investments, more than America's entire economic output. This creates a snowball effect. More data improves their systems, which attracts more clients, generating even more data and influence. Tyrion's defense of King's Landing during the Battle of Blackwater illustrates crisis financial management. When traditional approaches fail, creative resource allocation and innovative financing become survival tools. His wildfire strategy worked because he understood both available resources and enemy psychology. However, Lannister sophistication carries leverage risks. Cersei's relationship with the Iron Bank represents that what happens when financial engineering becomes over-leveraging. The 2008 financial crisis eliminated firms that prioritize complex financial structure over fundamental business strength. Bear Stearns collapsed despite sophisticated operations. Their leverage ratio meant that just 3.3% asset decline wiped out all shareholder value. Lehman Brothers follows similar patterns with identical results: complete destruction. Successful Lannister companies maintain conservative debt levels despite their financial sophistication. They use leverage strategically for enhanced returns. The Reach fed entire kingdoms through systematic resource management and strategic expansion. Olenna Tyrell understood that true influence comes from converting local success into widespread power through methodical, sustainable growth. Starbucks exemplifies this approach perfectly. Howard Schultz transferred 6 Seattle coffee shops into a global empire by systematically replicating a successful formula while maintaining quality across thousands of locations. Their scaling formula balances standardization with local adaptation. Training procedures, equipment specifications, and service standards remain identical worldwide, yet menus adapt to regional preferences. Green tea drinks in Asia, wine service in Europe. Amazon's AWS development shows how Tyrell resource leverage works in technology. They transformed internal infrastructure investments into external revenue streams, using existing operational excellence to serve entirely new markets. AWS now generates 70% of Amazon's operating profits. Marjorie Tyrell's political strategy mirrors platform expansion principles. Her core value proposition, intelligence, beauty, political acumen, adapted successfully across different relationships while maintaining consistent personal positioning. But Tyrell's scaling requires vigilant quality control. The Faith militant uprising against Tyrell influence demonstrates how rapid expansion can trigger cultural resistance. Local markets may reject standardized approaches that ignore regional nuances. Successful scaling companies balance global consistency with local relevance. Robert's Warhammer didn't just win individual battles, it completely shattered enemy forces so they never recovered. His approach concentrated overwhelming power at decisive moments to achieve permanent competitive advantages. Google search dominance exemplifies sustained competitive advantages. More users create better search results, which attract more users, creating an increasingly unsurmountable competitive barrier. They systematically expanded into adjacent markets using core platform strength. Their monopolistic position is mathematically impressive. 92% global search share, 8.5 billion daily searches, and $307 billion of annual revenue. Competitors like Bing, just 3%, and Yahoo, 1%, survive only through subsidized operations. Stannis Baratheon's systematic approach to conquest demonstrates disciplined competitive strategy. His methodical siege planning and legal justification show how sustained dominance requires operational excellence alongside competitive intensity. But Baratheon strategies attract regulatory scrutiny. Robert's post-conquest operational negligence parallels how aggressive companies often struggle with mature market management. Microsoft faced decade-long antitrust litigation for bundling Internet Explorer with Windows. Current investigations target Amazon, Google, Meta, and Apple for monopolistic practices. European regulators imposed billions in fines. American lawmakers consider structural breakups. Baratheon success creates Baratheon vulnerabilities. The key insight: domination requires building sustainable competitive advantages, not just achieving temporary market leadership. Dorne refused to play by everyone else's rules. Instead of competing directly with larger kingdoms, they created unique advantages that made them unbeatable on their chosen terrain. Modern Martell companies achieve similar results through unbreachable specialization. Ferrari embodies this positioning perfectly. They deliberately limit annual production to maintain exclusivity, charging prices based on brand prestige rather than manufacturing costs. Average Ferrari prices exceed $350,000 versus industry averages around $35,000. The specialization mathematics are revealing. Ferrari achieves 27% profit margins versus mass manufacturers like Toyota 8%, Volkswagen 6%, and Volvo 5%. Despite producing only 13,700 vehicles annually compared to Volvo's 709,000, Ferrari's market value often exceeds much larger manufacturers. Patagonia shows values-based positioning in action. Yvon Chouinard built a billion-dollar outdoor empire by focusing exclusively on environmentally conscious consumers willing to pay premium prices for sustainable products backed by lifetime warranties. Their "Don't Buy This Jacket" campaign exemplified anti-consumption messaging that paradoxically strengthened brand loyalty among target customers. Oberyn Martell's combat specialization mirrors expertise-based competitive advantages. His unique fighting style, regional knowledge, and focus capabilities made him formidable against opponents with superior resources and broader experience. But Martell's strategies faces inherent market size limitations. Ilaria Sand's revenge-driven expansion beyond Doran's natural advantages led to complete destruction. Companies that abandon niche specialization to chase broader growth often destroy the very differentiation that created their initial success. Successful Martell companies resist the temptation to become generalists. They continuously deepen their expertise, develop superior customer relationships, and maintain pricing discipline that reflects unique value creation rather than market competition. While studying successful house strategies, two patterns emerge that consistently destroy companies regardless of their initial resources, market position, or competitive advantages. Walder Frey earned his nickname through systematic tardiness, arriving late to crucial battles, switching sides based on perceived winners, and destroying valuable long-term relationships for immediate tactical advantages. The Red Wedding represents the ultimate expression of short-term thinking. WeWork exemplified pure Frey opportunism in modern business. Adam Neumann exploited favorable real estate markets and investor enthusiasm without building sustainable operational fundamentals. Growth metrics were systematically inflated, toxic culture was disguised as community building, and leadership focused on personal wealth extraction over stakeholder value creation. Their public filing revealed the operational reality behind growth narratives. $1.9 billion in revenue accompanied by $1.6 billion in losses. Neumann conducted personal real estate transactions using company funds. He charged the company licensing fees for using his personal trademarks. Corporate governance eliminated meaningful shareholder protections. Enron followed identical patterns through systematic accounting manipulation, prioritizing stock price over business fundamentals. The Frey pattern appears whenever companies prioritize immediate extraction over sustainable value creation. Roose Bolton's controlled psychological manipulation created short-term compliance through fear while systematically destroying long-term organizational capability. Ramsay's sadistic management represented pure toxicity without tactical benefits. Theranos demonstrated systematic Bolton patterns in Silicon Valley. Elizabeth Holmes created intimidation cultures where questioning technology claims was forbidden. Whistleblowers faced aggressive legal threats, and employees worked in constant fear of termination or personal destruction. The operational results were entirely predictable. Massive talent turnover as capable employees fled. Regulatory intervention as external oversight increased, and complete organizational collapse as fear-based management created systematic operational dysfunction. Holmes received an 11-year federal prison sentence for systematic fraud, patient endangerment, and investor deception. The company's technology never worked as promised, but the toxic culture prevented internal acknowledgement of fundamental problems. Both Frey opportunism and Bolton toxicity may generate short-term performance metrics, but they guarantee long-term value destruction. Now you understand the pattern that determines who wins in business. It's not about finding one perfect strategy and executing it forever. It's about knowing which medieval approach to deploy based on your current situation. And more importantly, how to evolve between strategies as conditions change. The most successful companies in history master multiple approaches simultaneously or sequence them strategically across their life cycle. Amazon's evolution reveals multi-house mastery in action. They began with Baratheon aggressive pricing and Tyrell systematic expansion to dominate retail. They added Targaryen innovation through AWS development and Greyjoy's acquisitions like Whole Foods. At maturity, they deploy Lannister financial optimization while maintaining Stark risk management. The pattern is now clear. Business success isn't about luck, timing, or even superior products. It's about recognizing which power strategy fits your current situation and executing it with discipline that built kingdoms. The same forces that elevated houses to rule Westeros or condemned them to extinction are determining winners and losers in your industry right now. The Iron Throne of your industry is waiting. The question isn't whether you'll compete for it. You already are. The question is whether you'll compete with a medieval framework that's been proven across centuries, or continue fighting with modern strategies that ignore the fundamental patterns of power. The throne of your industry is waiting. Choose wisely. Execute with discipline, and remember, in business, you either grow or you die.